This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
He thinks he looks good in a bathing suit, he doesn't.
Well, let's get back to it.
You just wait, Suella Bradman. The moment she hears that there's a spaceship going to the sun, that's going to be her next destination of choice to anybody that comes here on a boat. Never mind about Rwanda, we're going to send you to the sun. Texts and tweets and emails from yesterday's very, very disappointing show. In 3 hours, we couldn't come up with one single solitary thing that the Conservatives have actually made better in this country. In fact, the only thing that anybody came up with was a contentious one. Gay marriage. Which is so totally not Tory, I don't think it even counts. I mean, I can only assume that the gay marriage thing went in under a Conservative administration because whoever was in charge at the time, and I believe that it was Diddy David Cameron.
I think this is nonsense.
Knew personally a couple of people who were gay and wanted to get married. I mean, that's the only thing that I can that explains itself to me. I mean, do you think that the current administration, if gay marriage was not a thing, would even contemplate it? Oh, my God. It'd be the new war on woke. We'd have headlines on the front page of the Daily Mail. Get rid of this filth now. Smug would say that he's just been having a chat with Jesus.
I don't know anything.
And he's very, very against it. So we couldn't come up with anything. But I do have... there is the possibility that an idea is buried in the 14 pages of texts and tweets and stuff that I didn't get through last night. Richard says, one thing the Tories have improved over the last 13 years, there are many more food banks. Smug is very proud of this fact.
My view...
Yeah, he thinks they're heartening. Yeah, that's what Jesus would say. Yeah, sure. Religious. Okay. Brian says, I sold my house. I'm rich. Yeah, well, that's not really anything that they did personally. And it's only you that benefited, Brian, so shut up about it. And I mean that in a kind way. Roland says, I can name a couple of three things that the current comedy clown show of a government have achieved while in power. Cheaper food and clothing straight away.
We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away.
Footwear. Have you bought any cheaper footwear lately? Cheaper clothes for footwear straight away. We'll have the auspices of the European Union. And all that palaver. It's just lies after lies after lies. And we're supposed to just sit here and accept it. Charles says, yes, Nick, they are laughing at us, always do, but the real shout of these 13 years of extreme rule is the stupid, gullible voters who keep putting them there. Yes, that's right. As with everything else, it's our fault. That is actually true. It is our fault. We could have done something about it at any one of the general elections up until this point, but we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Although there is evidence that it's actually not entirely our fault and that the entire system is skewed to producing a Conservative government, despite the fact that they hardly ever in our history have got over 50% of the votes, but they do get 100% of the power. Now, one moment, please. It's... unfair boundaries. One moment. I'll just lay this on you and then you can cogitate a while. British democracy is being warped by an unfair system for drawing constituency boundaries that ignores millions of missing voters and hugely benefits the Conservative Party. No! This is according to new official data. Analysis by the political commentator and pollster Peter Kellner shows that if constituencies were determined according to the size of their population rather than the number of registered voters, as happens in most other advanced democracies, then the number of extra Labour seats created would cut the Tories' Commons majority by 22. Which means that the next general election they would have, let's see now, 0. Approximately 0. If it wasn't skewed in their favour. Now, you might think, what's the difference between the number of registered voters and the size of the population? Well, there's a lot of transient people in university towns, for instance, And because, students are very, very busy with their homework and everything.
Want to score some pot?
They fail to register. Poorer people also fail to register, and people that have come here from elsewhere fail to register. An analysis says that the number of MPs in London should be far higher because so many people there are among the missing voters. Londoners are younger, more diverse, and far more likely to rent privately than people in any other region. As a result, the population of the average London constituency is way above that of any other region. And we should be electing 85 London MPs instead of the 75 that we have now. So many of this anomaly is a feature of London living. But, the Tories, they load the dice in their favour, and they win, and they win, and they win. And I would not count them out of winning the next general election either, because there may be a change at the top.
Oh, no.
Yes. Can you believe that we might have to actually go through a couple of weeks of our lives this year without the steady guiding hand of fishy Sunak? It's barely worth thinking about, isn't it? I mean, what will we do without those liquid puppy dog eyes and that perfect hair and his little suit? And isn't he an absolute dream? Mark says, what have the Tories done in the last 13 years, Nick? They've confirmed a lettuce can outlive a Prime Minister's tenure. Now, that has to be a positive, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Perry says, all Tory cabinet members should be given an Etch-a-Sketch to use as their official door or desk plaques. What does that mean? All Tory cabinet members should be given an Etch-a-Sketch to use as their official door or desk plaques. This is, by the way, the first time I've spoken today, and it seems to be going very well compared to yesterday when I was like I've been smoking 20 Capstan full strength for my entire life. Everything is going perfectly fine. There's nothing to complain about.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
But I might find a way. Jim says, the Tories have introduced one successful policy, although it didn't appear in their manifesto, the privatisation of the NHS. Job done. Yeah. If that is not, in fact, the plan, then everything is going really badly. If there is the plan, then it's going tremendously well. Martin says the Conservative Party has generously given the rest of the world a reason to die laughing. Yeah, this catastrophic comedy clown show that we've been having over here on here.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, we're like the comedy relief. Good grief. We're like in Macbeth when there's a knock at the door. You'll wake the dead with that knocking. He says after peeing in the corner. Peeing in the corner.
Disgusting.
You believe that? 0345 6060 973. Chingford, hello, John.
Oh, hi, Nick. How's the cold? You sound a lot better.
My throat's a little bit better, but I sound a little bit nasally to my ears.
Stop whining.
A little bit nasally.
You sound a bit better than yesterday, anyway.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sort of. I was going to phone last night. I was a bit tired, but one sort of positive thing about the Tories is that they kind of mullered all the other right-wing parties. I mean, there's so many now. You've got the alt-right, the far right, and the sort of fascist right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's happening.
They haven't mullered them.
Sorry?
They haven't mullered them. They have absorbed them.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, at least you can keep them in check, can't you? But I mean, sometimes
no, you can't.
Right
They appear to be actually
out of control.
No, they appear to be running the government. They're not in check. They appear to have taken over.
Yeah, but at least you can check on the government. I mean, I remember the National Front in the late 70s. They were getting absolutely stonking results until the press the whole of the press turned on, and they showed that these are guys who dressed up as Nazis in their spare time. So,
right, well,
I mean, you got the Richard Tice. I mean, you got like the Richard Tice party, the Lawrence Fox, still got UKIP, God knows what. But I think the Greenies are outperforming a lot of them put together, actually.
The Greenies, what are they polling now? 5%, something like that?
Well, 6, I suppose, 6,
Right.
7.
So there
maybe,
used to be
but,
the 2% party, which was kind of dispiriting because we've always had problems with green issues. But now they've maybe doubled or even tripled that score to 6%, which is still pretty weak, people. What about the greenies?
But, I mean, I think they've sort of done slightly better, in some of the local elections, actually.
Great.
A lot better than Lawrence Fox and Richard Tice, anyway, so... Which is encouraging.
Yeah.
Have I got time to put a quick music comment in, or have I done now?
Well, the clock is ticking. What's the comment?
Well, no, it's just I was very impressed last week because you were talking about the greatest albums of all time, and some fella, I think Gary or somebody, texted that he mentioned Love Forever Changes, which I thought was a very good choice. I don't know if you're familiar with the album.
Yes, I am, and I think it is wildly overappreciated.
Okay.
It's definitely
also,
not one of the...
You mentioned
talking
something
all
about
over me, not
HD
remotely interested
streaming.
in anything I've got to say. Carry on.
No, I got that. I mean, I knew it probably wouldn't be to your taste. You're not really into... Anyway.
Alone Again or... Yes, carry on.
Okay.
That's the hit from that album, right? Alone Again or Love Forever Changes, isn't it? Alone Again or?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, okay. Do I not get points for that?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Okay. What do points make?
Anyway, you mentioned that you've got an HD streaming service that is unlike anything you've ever heard.
Yeah.
I was just intrigued about that. I mean, could I get the Notorious Bird Brothers on it?
I don't know, John. The Notorious Bird Brothers. What have they done to make them so notorious? Well, I guess we'll never know. But I recommend that you look it up. Wasting my time. I'm doing your homework for you. I don't know. Ask.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
Yes, I'm a very sick and dangerous person, but you know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
James says you dramatically underestimated the following magnificent Tory You dramatically underestimated the following magnificent Tory accomplishments over the last 13 years. Recall these. 1. Staging the country's best parties during lockdown. Oh, the business meetings, you mean? 2. Acquiring a national asset, a barge riddled with Legionnaire's disease.
Disgusting.
Yeah, they didn't acquire it, they rented it. At a cost of £1.5 billion, which means that it costs per person per night £1,100. £1,100 per person per night to put them on the Bibby Stockholm, and they are telling us that they rented that hideous boat in order to save us money. They've dragged people out of a hotel costing 50 quid a night to put them on a boat that's costing the nation £1,100 per person per night, and are telling us with a straight face that they're doing it in order to save our money. Because saving the public's money is their number one priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Yeah, you still keep getting that the wrong way around, mate. Have you seen his latest video? Wow. I mean, if you need something, if you feel like you need an emetic, then I would recommend you go and see it straight away, if not sooner. Drop everything. James says, 4, trashing the economy. Trashing the country's infrastructure and public services, including but not limited to the NHS, education, policing, water, rail, air and transport. 5, shutting down safe and legal routes for almost all asylum seekers. Yeah, well, they got that right.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing
on stopping the
boats.
Yeah. He's the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
And finally... 6, redefining what it means to do something with immediate effect. Yeah, at some later point when it benefits me personally. That's what immediate means now. By the way, if you didn't hear well, I guess I haven't released it as text, but if you didn't hear the not the Nadine Dorris resignation letter, then it is available on an internet near you on the podcast called The Nick Abbot Habit, which is usually clips of old shows, old shows, but every now and again I put a brand new clip on there, and the last episode is an example of the latter. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What? No, it's the Nick Abbot Habit. There you are, you see. And you can thank me. No, wait. I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
0345 6060 973. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, I owe you, Nick.
All right.
Look, it's a physical... No, I'm just looking at hospitals, schools. They're physically crumbling, breaking up.
That's right.
It's a physical thing. So we have the political breakup.
Yep.
We are looking at a UK which is literally breaking up. Right. I did some light reading last night. Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. Edward Gibbon. And the quote there is very apt. And on that hard pagan world, a secret loathing fell. Deep weariness and sated lust made human life a hell. So, given that it all worked out, it's the breakup of the old British Empire.
Yes.
You're looking at the last few days. It's going to be a rough ride, this one.
What, you mean the ride hasn't started yet? We're still being held back, and we're about to go up the clicky thing that sends us to the top of the ride?
Yep.
After which it'll be all downhill. Don't worry about a thing. It'll all be downhill, apart from that bit in the middle where it goes up completely upside down and people start throwing up. I'm looking forward to that part.
Well, I feel I've been looted. I don't know. I don't know what
not in a good way. All right. Well, keep your wits around you, Jeff, and don't ever close your eyes. Make sure that you don't do that, because they're waiting to pounce. All right. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it's physical now. Let's get physical. Jules texts, the one thing that's got better under the Tories in the last 13 years is the weather. I'm not sure that's right. I mean, you're talking about global warming, right? I assume that is where you're going with that. But global warming is not necessarily going to make this country a sunny haven of loveliness, because global warming might just make it wetter here. In fact, there is, there's great evidence that it just might get wetter and stormier, and every now and again we'll have a heat wave that's going to kill off, most of the old people. But other than that, I don't think we're going to get anything good. More expensive food, millions and millions of people being ousted from their homelands because they can't make it live for them anymore. They can't live there anymore. And I imagine that some of them will be trying to get in here. We're going to need bigger boats. Andy says, is the reason our glorious leader has managed to accumulate so many millions is because he doesn't have to pay VAT when buying clothes for himself. And then Andy ruins it by explaining at the end, cause children's clothing doesn't incur VAT. Yeah, I get that part, yeah. Craig texts, number 10's Rose Garden. That's it. Just that. Number 10's Rose Garden. What about it? Are you talking about that's a benefit of the... no, I think the Rose Garden predated the Conservative administration. It's lucky to have survived Boris Johnson, though.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Captain Calamity over there. Heston. Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I like that last one. Children's clothing doesn't incur VAT. That's a nice one. Yeah. Anyway, one thing we've learned from this current government over the last 30 years, or what they've improved, is our knowledge on how not to run the so-called sixth richest country in the world.
Yes.
That's what they've achieved. That's the one thing they've achieved. How not to run. Okay, now we are supposed to be the sixth richest country in the world, but when you look at how to put it, the greater population, it doesn't seem so.
No,
so,
of course, they keep banging on about that. Oh, we make so much money, and look at the economy, it's going great. I mean, you've released a little backslapping video, was it today or yesterday, saying, look at the economy, our plan is working, we must stick with the plan. Mr. Speaker. It's just painful. Most of the people in this country aren't feeling it, Rishi Sunak. You and your financial finagler mates might be feeling it, but we aren't. It's
absolutely.
It's like walking through Kensington and Chelsea. Oh, there's a lot of money there, but none of it's going to touch you.
And also, the other thing as well, with all the money, you know, they keep saying, well, where's the money coming from? 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 But the thing is, you see, right, a lot of that money has been siphoned off into, offshore accounts like Cayman Islands, Bermuda.
You don't ask, you're asking the wrong question there. It's not where the money is coming from, it's where the money's gone.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Isaac. All right, appreciate that. 0345 6060 973. William says, I'm earning more now than I was 13 years ago, although I was 13 years ago. But, you know, that's a positive. We'll cling on to that. He had a paper round when he was, when he was 15, and now he's an international financier, earning millions. All thanks to the Conservative administration. Travis says, I have one good thing the Conservatives have done over the last 13 years. They've shown the contempt they feel for the general British population, leading to people becoming more involved in politics. I hope they never get into power ever again. They are a disgrace.
I think it's disgusting. I really think it's disgusting. I think something should be done about it.
Something should be done about it. What have we done to suffer this? I'd love to know. If only I could remember, because it must have been great. It must have been really, really bad. Can you imagine what we've done as a nation to deserve this? And the tragic part is we can't remember what it was. I mean, I don't even have any of sticky residues. Nothing to show for it whatsoever. Travis says, I have one good thing the Conservative... No, read that. Andy says, hey, Nick, the chances of dying early has improved under this government. Well, that is true. Yeah. The chances of dying have, in fact, improved under this government. That is a fact. We're dying earlier. We're the first generation to die earlier than the previous generation in this country. It's the first time in history that has ever happened. And the people that made it happen are the Conservative administration.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
It's only possible because of their good work that people are now dying earlier than they did in previous generations. It's the only time it's ever happened. We're dying poorer and earlier and iller. Die texts. The Tories cleaned up our air, but I still won't vote for them. They cleaned up your air? Where do you live? Chris, because I thought that breathing clean or wanting to breathe clean air was woke. As you know, if I'm keeping up to speed with the wokey cokey,
Okie dokie,
then I do understand that wanting to breathe clean air is actually woke and lefty and probably activist too. Thomas says, they kept Corbyn out, but they have robbed us all the same. They kept Corbyn out, but they have robbed us all at the same time. I don't think that keeping Corbyn out was such a great thing for this country. I think that we would be in considerably better shape now if we had, if Jeremy Corbyn had won that general election. I think that more people would be better off. Fewer people would be grindingly poor, and the horizon would be improved for most. Cole says, One organisation that has been boosted under the Conservative is the Samaritans. Well, that's probably true too. I mean, there's nothing funny about it, but yeah, that's right.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Yes, we're talking about the record of the current administration. Or at least I was last night, and these are the texts and tweets from last night. I set a task of trying to find one single thing that is better now than it was at the beginning of their regime. And we couldn't come up with anything at all. But perhaps buried in these 14 pages of texts and emails that I didn't get around to last night is the one thing that will make it all worthwhile. So I'm getting through them slowly, chewing through them slowly. Chris says the flipping Tories have even persuaded businesses to limit or not accept cash. And once cash goes, they will know everything you do with your money. If you go to somebody's business, if you hand them a fiver, they'll look at you as if you're handing them something disgusting. Cashless society is not for our benefit, says Chris. Correct amundo, Chris. The cashless society is not for our benefit. It is for the purpose of complete control and the advancement of your indebtedness. If you've got 100 quid in your pocket, like in the old, it were grand when I were a lad. If you went out for a night and you had 100 quid in your pocket, that was as much as you were going to spend, because unless you could borrow some from your mates. You had to stop drinking when you ran out of money, or ask somebody else to buy you a drink, and you get back to them later. But now, money is meaningless. It's just completely. It's as though it is worthless, because you've got this little plastic card of magic, and it's like nothing costs anything anymore. You just wave it across the machine of pleasure. Boop. It goes, and whatever it is that is in your sticky little hand is yours. But you will pay later, and you will spend more because it doesn't appear to you as though you are actually spending money. The pain only hits later when you get your bill, and it's way bigger than you thought it was going to be. And you can't quite get your head around how large a sum it is that you have spent without even thinking about it. Because, a coffee is £3, and then you might get a magazine, and that's a £5, and you're getting a bus, and there's another £1, and by the end of the day, you've spent £100 on things, and you don't actually have anything to show for it. And then you do the same the next day, and then the next day, and then in a month's time, when your statement comes in, you see how much you've actually spent. And you can't pay it off. And here comes the best part. You pay off the interest, which is about 30%.
What?
Yeah. You could ask for money from the mafia, and they'd give you a better interest rate than that.
Absolutely.
So you've now got this debt pile parked above you like a dark cloud that goes everywhere with you, and it's virtually impossible, unless you're earning a big chunk of money. It's virtually impossible to get out from under that cloud, because you're just about able to keep paying the interest, being as it is 30%. That should be against the law. People who are charging 30% interest on your weekly and monthly spend should be in jail. But they're not in jail, they're in the House of Lords. And then they've got you. That's the essence of the cashless society. Complete control, and you spend your entire life in debt, just paying off the interest, never paying off the principal. Gotcha. Forever. So you'll miss it when it's gone, but as with many other things, we are prepared to give up everything for a small convenience. Which is what the boop and go thing is. It's just a small convenience. You could carry around cash, and you could, count the cash out of the till and wait for the change and carry all that shrapnel around with you, like people did since the invention of money. But with the boop and go thing, you only have to carry around a little bit of plastic, a little convenience, and we're prepared to give up everything for that. Well, hell, we gave up the high street because we couldn't be bothered to go and walk to the shops to get our stuff. Now we just order it online, and it comes to us. A small convenience. And the entirety of the middle of your town now is just fly-blown and full of drunks. Drunks and kids stabbing each other. Where it used to be a place to go. But it isn't anymore because of a small convenience. It's our fault. As with everything else. We could fix it, but we don't want to. Because we can't be bothered. Sorry about that intemperate outburst, but it's probably a function of me being very, very sick.
Stop whining.
0345 6060 973. Luton. Victor.
Hi, Nick.
Victor.
Sorry about your cold. Did you at least get to enjoy mindfully sneezing? It's a bit of a release, almost like a climax when you sneeze sometimes. It's its own sensation.
What does mindfully sneezing mean?
You just focus on the sensation of sneezing, because it's its own sensation, like yawning or stretching.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a mini climax.
It's just, it spangles my brain. It does. I love sneezing. The worst part is when you think you're going to sneeze, but you don't. You go through all the motions of sneezing, you know, the sharp breaths in.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen. And you think, oh.
I know, it's like a ruined sneeze.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
exactly. Yeah. Sneezers, interrupters.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever you sense inside of yourself a twinge of doubt in the Tories' God-given right to be the natural party of government, just stop and remember the mantras. How Sunak is delivering on the people's priorities, because your priorities are his priorities.
That's right.
And also remember how he's a friend to drivers, and how integrity is at the heart of everything he does.
That's correct.
And then also cast your thoughts back to what can happen under Labour. So how Brune sold all the gold, how Red Ed ate his sarnie in an odd way.
That's right.
How Jezza was a Czech spy, and Cormac Keith, he drank beer and he appointed Sue Gray.
Yeah.
And Labour are in hock to union baron paymasters.
That's right.
Lefty lawyers, Just Stop Oil.
And furthermore, Gordon Brown breathes through his mouth. So, you know, it's very upsetting.
And we have to stop the boats and hold the line against linacarists, cultural Marxists, the metropolitan elite, lefty lawyers, tofu-eating workerati, pagans, and the dystopian fantasies of John Lennon.
I think that you've summed it all up for us there, Victor. Excellent work.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, cheers, mate. As soon as you have another thought, I want you to let me know straight away, all right? It might be very, very important. Thanks, mate. 0345 6060 973. Jennifer texts, Jennifer. She says, I will be voting Conservative, the reason being my house keeps going up in value and I'm able to lease a brand new electric car, and my husband has an electric BMW. When Labour get in, they will probably take it off, and they'll off me, and off me, and I'll be shopping at Aldi. So Jennifer, who at the end says, I don't share your views, but you are entertaining. So she's actually serious. I will be voting Conservative, the reason being my house keeps going up in value and I'm able to lease a brand new electric car, and my husband has an electric BMW. And when Labour, spelled Lebor, Labour get in, they will probably take it off me and I'll be shopping at Aldi. God help me, she says. There's a comedy duo called Larry and Paul, who I follow on Twitter. They do excellent work. They've, I don't know how they've managed to, I guess you can do all sorts of things with computers these days, but they do like fake news bulletins, but it looks as though they're doing it from £1 million studio. It looks as though they run into the BBC news studios while they're not there and are using that. It looks immense. But I suppose they're just sitting in their attic, and they've digitaled the whole thing around them. It's very impressive. But more impressive, and the only reason to, don't watch them for the special effects, don't hum the scenery, is the things that they do. And one of the most recent videos is talking about a product that's a cooperation between BMW, Audi, and Mercedes. It's very funny. Larry and Paul. I think I'd retweeted it on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, then you'll see it in my timeline, or just go ahead and look them up, and you can thank me later. No, wait. I've changed my mind about this too. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
They're called Larry and Paul. They do good work. Sandbatch. Hello, John.
When to call Larry, Curly and Moe?
What?
The Three Stooges, Larry, Curly and Moe.
What's that got to do with anything?
Just I felt like saying it.
Oh,
but
great.
Is Suella Braverman bragging about kicking the Afghan people out of their accommodation? You know, the people that helped our soldiers in Afghanistan?
Yes.
They've all got to leave their accommodation.
Well, I would think so. I mean, just to teach them a lesson, don't try helping us again.
That's true. And I also find that the Conservative MPs, and some of them said, they fought in Afghanistan, are very quiet about it.
Well, I mean, it's a very, very serious issue, and it's going to bring me down just thinking about it. But imagine this. These people risked not just their lives, but the lives of their entire families, their parents, their children, and everyone they know, to help British troops who were strangers in a strange land, unable to comprehend the language and the customs. And they helped the British troops get through and saved their lives. And our response was, well, you shouldn't have done that then, should you, you stupid morons? What did you want to help us for? Are we going to help you? Hell no. Do you have it in writing? Get lost.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. We're saying to them, you did have somewhere to live, but now you can get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Go and find yourself somewhere else to live.
And in the next conflagration, because there will be another one, and our troops find themselves at a loss to understand what people are saying and what they're doing and where the enemy might be, then the people in that land would have to be out of their minds to help us. Why would they do that?
Their tiny minds.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we so untruthful or, dishonest with these people?
Perfidious is what we are. We always have been. Yeah, we're not nice people, and that's the evidence right there. You can't think your way around that. If that's who we are, and it appears to be, because these are the people that represent us, this government, they didn't get there by accident. People voted them in over and over and over again. And so that's who we are. That's who we want representing us. So I don't think that we're very nice people. We like to think that we are, but we aren't. Hey, John, got to go. But thanks for that. 034. Oh, dear. 034. Almost got through an hour.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
You're joking.
There's nothing funny about it. 0345 6060 973. Eddie texts in relation to what have the Tories done for us over the last 13 years. Well, they've got a new logo on a plane. Yeah, Bodger had a plane repainted at the cost of, I can't remember exactly how much money it was, but shall we say an enormous amount? An enormous amount. But nothing's too good for our bodge, eh? Southampton, hello, Simon.
Nick, good evening.
Simon.
I haven't been phoning LBC much lately because, to be honest, I'm just so tired. I am so exhausted. And I'm terrified about next year because I don't know whether your listeners really appreciate the scale of things next year. We are at risk next year of having Trump back in the White House.
Our president! Can you believe it?
with all the fun and games that's going to bring.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, the NHS will be finished for a start. If they get another term, that's the NHS gone.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know whether your listeners have really ever sat and thought about it. I cannot believe that there are still people in this country that are backing those people.
And I bet those numbers are much bigger than the polling suggests, because at the moment, I think that there is a certain reluctance among people to say that they will vote Conservative. But I bet that when it comes to it, they will, because they'll think, well, who's going to make me more money? Who's going to allow me to keep the money that I've already got? And they will vote for that party, which will be, despite all of the evidence to the contrary over the last 13 years, they will go back to what the sort of template of the parties. And the template that they have is that Labour will, they'll throw money away on, poor people. Yeah. And the Tories will allow rich people to keep all of their cash.
Well, I mean, I just think that it could be the start of something really terrifying.
Yeah.
You've got, once people start to finally wake up. Well, I mean, I don't even want to think about it. And it comes to something when these days, when you hear that, somebody famous has died, and you actually start to think that they're quite lucky. Not saying I want to go anywhere, but you sort of think you won because you managed to live your life and you did everything. And
you got out just in time.
And you got out naturally. Look, when you were supposed to, and we've got to now deal with the rest of it. But you're one of the lucky ones. It's so twisted. Everything's so twisted.
Simon, you have to put this aside and stop thinking so negatively. I mean, I know it's very easy to get into like a funk, like a slump, there's this swirling eddy of negative thoughts, but it does not necessarily have to get worse. The way in which it can get better is for people like you to actually get energized, not enervated. Just get...
You don't have to convince me.
All right.
I am pretty convinced that I am pretty clinging to faith that things will go the right way.
Faith.
And by the right way, I don't mean the right wing way. As far as I'm concerned, there is only left wing and wrong wing. There's no right wing about it. Yeah. Listen, I've got a bone to pick with you as well.
Uh-oh.
I've tried 3 times now to watch The Sopranos, right?
Yeah.
This time around, there's actually something has clicked, and I'm now into series 3. I'm binging it, right? And I'm actually really enjoying it. But the thing is, should I be finding it amusing?
Yes. The thing is, with The Sopranos, I must have watched it all the way through at least 4, if not 5 times. And the first time you watch it, you're just terrified all the time because there's going to be a moment of extreme violence in every episode, and you don't know who's going to die next. And then the second time you watch it, you think, because you know what's going to happen, you can relax into the dialogue a little bit more, and you realise that what you're watching is a comedy.
Do you? I think the best character really is Junior. He's the one that gets the most laughs out of me. Just some of his retort, the old guy.
Yeah, but weirdly, the guy called Junior is the oldest person in it.
Yeah, Uncle Junior.
Yeah.
One more thing before I go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're obviously living in this weird. I mean, both here and America, we're living in this weird sort of universe where people have set up television channels, which, let's face it, if the same content was coming from Russia, the people that watch these channels would be up in arms. But for some reason, because they're being broadcast in this country and in America, everyone thinks it's fine.
Right.
For example, right? So we're living in this weird world where these channels are allowed to pump out their propaganda and their bile and everything.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, if you're listening to this show, right, you need to introduce a fact-checking legal process whereby everything that is broadcast, whether it be on radio or TV, it is then fact-checked and then the facts are told after the event. We need to stop people being able to sit there and spout their lies who get support because it's not helping any of us, even those people.
Right. And you could say the same about newspapers and social media and everywhere else that people get their information these days. It's actually, I mean, Keir Starmer is not listening to this, and neither would he do anything about it if he was. I don't think that I can't imagine what a Keir Starmer government would actually be like. I would be surprised if he knew himself.
I hope it's not what he is portraying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that he doesn't want to say anything that's going to negatively affect the polls in any way, so he just doesn't say anything.
Right.
But when he gets into power, then perhaps he will start moving the country, even if it's just slightly to the centre, would be a good idea.
Nick, the thing is, right, let's assume that he gets into power and then everything then starts to come right. I don't want to know about it. I don't want it to be used as a weapon. I don't want it to be shown off and everything else. Just quietly do it behind the scenes. Right. People will notice.
I'm sorry, Simon, but the right-wing press and social media and the think tanks and the TV stations you talked of and all of that, they will not stop. They will, in fact, ramp up the hysteria. They will, the second that the Labour Party get into power, all of those outlets will instantly blame the Labour Party for everything that is wrong with this country. Yeah, and I hope that the Labour Party actually understands this and have prepared, because they may only get one term. Because people will accept that message that everything is Labour's fault the second that the announcement is made that they have won the next general election. Everything will be their fault, and they will vote accordingly in the following general election. So the Labour Party have, I would imagine, one go, during which time the most important thing would be to secure a possible win in the following general election. And only when they've done that, then they can, start to unpick this hideous mess that will have been gifted them by Mr. Integrity.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
At every level. It's just awful, isn't it? All right, thanks a lot, Simon. 0345. Cheer up, mate. It might never oh, no, that's right. It already has. Carl says, hurts me to say, considering the Conservatives have broken everything that we had so good up to 2010, but I would vote Tory if they mandate the abolishment of inheritance tax, says Kyle. Kyle, they have abolished inheritance tax if you are inheriting a vast sum of money. I mean, the richest man in the land, or the richest young person under 30 in the land, he inherited, how many billions was it? Billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds. You know how much tax he paid? Zero. Nothing at all. King Charles, one of the richest people that have ever lived, paid not one penny in inheritance tax. And that happens everywhere you look. But if you're inheriting 400,000 or £1 million or something like that, because your parents had a house that they bought for £5,000 in 1960 and it just gone up and up and up, then you will pay every penny that is required under law.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. 0345 6060 973. Debbie says, the one thing that the government has done well is to make Rwanda such a popular place that a football team advertise it as a place to visit on their kit. Yeah, they do. That always looks so weird. I mean, I only know Rwanda as a punishment, but it's also a holiday destination. Anybody want to go?
No.
I didn't think so. Not me. A day out in Brighton, that's about my speed. St Ives, hello, Jay.
Oh, hi, good evening, Nick. Yeah, I was just thinking of, I want to talk about the benefits of Tory government. Whenever I talk to a racist person, he makes me feel special. The reason why, because he says, I want to get rid of those immigrants, not you.
Of course not.
You know, like they said, you're a very good one.
Yeah.
I want you to stay. But that's one of the benefits.
Right.
I feel special.
Yeah.
Because he wants me to stay here for some reason, but the other ones are bad.
Right.
That's one. Second one is blue passports. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
The cover of those red ones, they look like communist
the way
ones.
the way they feel, the way they smell, everything about them.
Yeah, these ones are more like a little bit bendy. I received a new one recently, and it looks a bit bendy.
Yeah, which is not really, that's not really very, very British, is it? We used to have a passport that was so stiff that if you had it in your back pocket and you sat down, you'd actually put your back out, which is, stiff upper lip British passport, not this bendy, woke, lefty kind of passport that we got at the moment. Hippie passport we got.
And do you think we live in an abusive relationship right now? Like a Tory government is an abuser. Like there are some, I've got like a relative. Her husband always abused her, and she always stuck with him. Yeah. With her husband, and she's been treated so badly. And everyone advised her, oh, don't go back. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's going to get beaten up. Yeah. And then she leaves. She goes and stays with her relative.
It happens
and then
again.
All of a sudden, and she goes back to him, and then they make up, and then he promises the world. I think that's what's happening to us right now.
Precisely right.
Don't you think?
In a nutshell, yes. We are chained to the radiator in Rishi Sunak's basement. Yeah. Every now and again he comes down to give us a whip and tells us that our safety is his number one priority.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. All right, well, it sounds like you said it. Excellent work, Jay. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Kevin says, after 13 years in government and several outlandish characters getting dangerously exposed by a wholly inadequate media, the one thing that's better now than before is fraud. The UK is now the world leader in all aspects of fraud. That's correct. Yeah, even before this regime took over, we were the crookedest country in the whole wide world. Do you remember the Matthew Sorvino, the mafia investigator?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he determined that. And he particularly took out of his equation governance and police. So it was just the financial finagling racket. You know, the way that for a living we wash clean the ill-gotten gains of the international criminal super-rich, which is what we do for a living. That is our gift to the world. We wash clean the ill-gotten gains of the international criminal super-rich. Some of the worst people in the world are experiencing fabulous carefree lifestyles because of the service that we provide in the City of London. The banks and the lawyers and the accountants and the estate agents, of course. The estate agents. Where to park your money? At the top of a gleaming tower. You don't ever have to go in there. You don't even have to rent it out. That is completely unimportant. All that is important is that the door closes and stays closed. And the building doesn't blow up. That's all they mind about. It's just it's a bank vault in the sky. 0345 6060 973. And if, by the way, we were the world's most crooked country before the Conservative administration took over 13 years ago, I mean, really, we are off the scale. We're in a league of our own now. We are number one. Anthony, Islington.
Hello, Nick.
Anthony.
You marry my mum because she loves watching. She watches you every single weekend.
I will absolutely marry your mum. When's she free?
I don't like the sound of that.
Oh, well, you didn't mention your dad.
I ask you to her in real person.
Say it again?
She hasn't really married my dad.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Does your dad know about that?
Yeah.
She does, right, okay. How old are you?
They're not really married because they don't really like each other that much, but I'm 8.
8? Yeah. 8 years old. How about this weather, eh?
Yeah. I don't know.
Are you going to school next Monday?
I don't know, because I think the school's shut down or something. It says it on the news. But I won't pass you to my mum.
Yeah, okay. Pass me to your mum, yeah. Mum! So, is he a good little boy?
He's fabulous.
He's fabulous. Right, but a mum would say that, though, wouldn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the blackbird.
So is he going to school on Monday?
Absolutely.
Is he?
Fully dressed,
Right.
whether he likes it or not. Yeah.
So you haven't been told that it might fall down?
That's it. I heard the news. I'm hoping
You're hoping that it won't? Or
that it will.
that it
I
will?
love having him. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's no good for the kids, though. They've got to go out there and socialise, and they've got to, learn by being among their ilk.
I know.
Can't be with mum all the time.
Well, when he was 3, lockdown started, and that was the worst.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hang on a
And being
minute.
a
When he was
child-
3, and he's 8 now?
Well, he's 8 next month, the little liar.
Okay. Oh, right, okay. So what's he getting? Don't tell me. He might hear.
Oh, I haven't decided yet.
Right.
He got a puppy for his birthday, but he got it 6 months early because my mother decided on it. Yeah.
And what kind of puppy dog?
Oh, a silver Labrador retriever, and she's 4 months old.
A silver retriever?
Yes.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Apparently, if I'm to believe the paddy that sold it, then she brought over the grandmother from America, and it's the first, yeah.
Well, you want to keep a hold of that, then it sounds very, very expensive. Oh, I'm looking at it now. Wow, that is a good-looking dog. Good grief.
Yeah, she glistens in the sun.
I bet.
Yeah, and she's fabulous playing with a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah, well, they are very, very, they're a very loving breed. Now, that is a terrific-looking dog, a silver Labrador. I never heard of such a thing. They're very good. I like that. I prefer it to the gold ones and the black ones.
Absolutely. I didn't realise they were guide dogs. I shouldn't have realised. I knew that, but I didn't notice. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I wish you and the Silver Lab all the very best, and say hi to and bye to Anthony. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Very big with the nursery school crowd, this programme. Still ploughing through texts and tweets from last night. Judith says, I got all excited, thinking I'd found something the Tories were successful at, and I thought they initiated the charge for... listen to me. Initiated? Sound like Mrs M. How are the negotiations going, Mrs M?
Oh, fabulous.
Still bad. Anyway, Judith texts... I got all excited thinking I found something the Tories were successful at. I thought they'd initiated the charge for plastic bags, but then I realised it was Nick Clegg during the coalition, so they can't even take responsibility for that. You remember Nick Clegg, don't you? Yeah, that's him. Unaccountably, he got a job as like the second in command of Facebook. How the hell did that happen? What does he know about computers? Mystifying. Nigel says, you're so hard on the Tories. They've had more prime ministers without a mandate from the voting public in the shortest amount of time than ever before. Surely that was worth £1.5 trillion for an entry into the Guinness Book of World Records. Take that, all you other G7 countries. And they got Brexit done. What a success. See, this is what I got last night. 3 hours of sarcasm. I was just asking a simple question, and I genuinely wanted the answer to this question, because it's very, very important. We've just suffered through 13 years of the Tory regime, and during the week, I was setting my mind to it, and I couldn't think of a single solitary positive thing that they'd done. Don't you think that's incredible? I mean, if you gave me a moment, I could read a list of positive things that the previous Labour administration have done that's as long as my arm. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, their achievements. But what have the Tories done? And I couldn't think of a damn thing. So I thought, well, I'll do it as a question on the show. Not thinking that it would actually take 3 hours, and I still wouldn't come up with anything. And the switchboard was jammed all night long with people who were, eager to give a suggestion. But most of them were just trying to be funny because they couldn't think of anything either. And now I'm going through these texts and emails from last night, 14 pages of them I didn't get through, and there's nothing here either. Incredible. It is absolutely astonishing what has happened in this country in the last 13 years, don't you think? And now they're talking about they're going to change the guard again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they want to change the guard again. Conservative MPs have been submitting letters of no confidence in Fishy Sunak, according to Westminster insiders. This again. with many Tory MPs already announcing their intention to bravely run away before the electorate has a chance to sack them at the next election, poor Fishy is having a tough time. And there's a little puppy who isn't used to having a tough time. Poor Rishi Sunak. It's as though real life is introducing itself to him for the very first time. The first time in his perfumed existence. And no matter how many videos he makes, while he bounces up and down with excitement at the promises that he thinks we don't know he's going to break. And no matter how sad his little puppy dog eyes look, he's just not connecting with real people because he's never known any. He's just wafted through life on a scented cloud of cashmere loveliness, using his money as a shield to insulate himself from what the rest of us poor dopes who pay taxes have to go through. And he can't quite understand why we don't just love him unconditionally like a silver Labrador. Well, you can lock a Labrador in the boot of your car. And an hour later, when you let it out, it'll still be happy to see you. But we, human beings, are not that easily pleased. We won't do a little happy dance at the sight of his shiny teeth and his little quiffed hair. Oh, and by the way...
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't. It's unnecessary. And so he lies to us about everything and expects us to believe the next thing he says as though we don't have recall. Well, we have total recall.
Correct.
We remember it all. We remember the words integrity and professionalism had barely left your moisturised lips before you rehired the contestant for the world's worst human, the just-fired Suella Bloomin' Braverman, as the Home Secretary, for crying out loud. We remember that you told us stopping the boats was our number one priority, when it flat out isn't.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Yeah, you can keep saying that until you're blue in the face, mate. But the government's priorities are not our priorities. And you can't shoehorn them into it. And just what... you keep saying that. The stop the boats thing.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
Yeah. It's not our priority. It's just what he thought would get votes by appealing to the worst of us. And we remember the billions lost to fraud right under his nose, that he was either too compromised, corrupt or plain hopeless to stop. And we mostly remember that we didn't vote for him. No one did. He just took over like he owned the place. And now, in a blind panic, having to try and find another job that pays 84 grand a year plus $250,000 in expenses, the harumphing massed ranks of his own MPs are wanting to be rid of him before they get sacked by the electorate at the next election. And who do they want in this place? Well, they want to revisit the hits. They want to bring back the old one.
Absolutely.
Not you, him.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Because that's exactly what a country that's barely functioning needs. A country in which the ceiling is literally falling down around us. In which you can't send your kids to school because the building might collapse, and if it does, you won't be able to send them to hospital because that's collapsing too. Oh dear. Getting too emotional. Yeah, what the country needs now is the return of a booze-sodden, amoral, skirt-chasing, Russia-loving money hound. I mean, that could really fix all of our problems. The return of Mr. Blobby, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
And if they actually have the nerve to present us with another dear leader, as though this country is just a family business with relationship issues and who is the manager is none of our business, then, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, I agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
My view is the change of leader requires a general election. My view is the change of leader requires a general election. My view is the change of leader requires a general election.
Correctamundo, Smug. Correctamundo.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hello, number please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yes, I am most sorry to keep Mark in Devon waiting. Mark.
Hello, hiya. Yeah, I was compelled to call in, really, because one of your messages you got said about house prices under Labour and house prices under Conservatives. Do you know, an actual fact for you, really, is house prices increased more under the 1997 to 2010 Labour government than they have under the Conservative government. That also includes the financial crash, by the way, the worldwide crash.
Wow.
They increased by 46% from 1997 to 2010, and they've increased by 44% since 2010. So there's this myth that people like to spout out about the Labour Party and the economy being affected and so on and so on, and they ignore the fact that we've privatised and sold off everything. So we're paying more for services, like EDF is now owned by the French government. They ignore all that, and they make out that the Conservatives are better for the economy, when in actual fact the truth is the exact opposite of that. And Richie Sunak is he's like one of those people you ring at customer services. They've got a nice script, but their service delivery is like a big guff. Can I say that?
You just
really,
did.
You know the service is just going to be awful. And I have arguments with my friends about Labour this, Labour that, and they've got no evidence. And I say, well, the economy wasn't that bad, and that's an actual fact. Anyone can look up about house prices on the Land Registry website.
Well, Mark, nobody is interested in facts anymore. We're all about feelings now, baby. And people have taken on board the propaganda that the Tories are a safe, strong hand on the economy. They've taken on board that because they've been told it over and over and over again. Disbelieve everything that you see with your eyes. Just listen to what they're telling you. We are a steady pair of hands, they say, having ruined everything. Everything in their wake has collapsed, is sunk or on fire right now, and they're still telling you that everything is fine and the sun is shining, and people believe it. The amount of times I've heard, well, it wouldn't be any better under Labour, would it? I mean, it used to be better. Why not give it a go?
It's incredible. It's like a science fiction movie. The reality is turning into that. I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
But I've got a friend who's just gone private because he's had a disc operation. Luckily, he could go privately because he wouldn't be able to work. And I just think about people that are on hospital waiting lists now that have increased way before COVID. By the way, they were on a steep graph, like the north face of the Eiger.
Yes.
And if you're waiting for an operation or an MRI scan, because you've got a slipped disc and you're in agony, you can't work, your income's gone because you're probably on a stupid 0 hours contract, you're stuffed. And it's all right for the Conservatives and their friends who've got loads of money and they just trot off and go private and get the results in 24 hours. But people are being let down in this country, and I just wish people would look at the evidence and become more politically engaged and look at the facts.
It occurred to me, it's either last week or the week before, it's actually, we in this country are now in the terrifying position, which is probably unique in the first world, of it being imperative that you do not get sick, because we have a health service that is not even an emergency service anymore. The definition of arriving at hospital in an ambulance is that it is an emergency, and people are being queued in ambulances in car parks, and because they can't get into the blooming hospitals.
It is like a comedy sketch, really. It's something that is bizarre, and I don't know why people aren't more up in arms about it.
Neither do I.
The French would be rioting in the streets.
Jeez, the whole of France would be on fire right now. It would.
I seriously, I don't know where it's heading, really, but I love the fact that Richie just sticks to that script. He's like a double glazing salesman. When you say no, he just carries on. But he's got nothing left other than that script. He's like you said a couple of weeks ago. He's like one of those things where you pull a cord at the back and he just spurts out the same message.
He had the nerve to release a video that said that was patting himself on the back for the state of our economy. There's millions of people who are in poverty at the moment who don't know whether they'll be this winter able to heat and eat. We've got children, millions of children in poverty. There's a lot of money sloshing around this country right enough, but none of it's touching most of the people. So it's pointless to tell us that, GDP is up and et cetera and so on. It's utterly meaningless to 99.9% of the people in this country. I mean, you can think, oh, well, that's nice. I feel a little bit better now, and then reality hits you in the face again when you realise that you can't afford your electric bill.
That's it. You're gonna have more people in the UK that have got a lot less, and there'll be a nice people at the top. Thank you very much. We're okay, and you'll have a bigger sector of society that will have. And that's the way we're heading.
It's
undoubtedly.
trickle-up economics.
Absolutely. Exactly that.
Yeah. No such thing as trickle-down.
Totally agree.
Does not exist. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. Cheer up, mate. It might never... Oh, no. That's right. It already has. Clive says, when I were a lad, schools had to be closed to remove asbestos. Kids these days don't know they're born. With just a bit of concrete falling on their heads, they should stop whinging and man up a bit. They need to be more brave, strong and masculine like Rishi Sunak. Mr. Speaker. Sir Jacob texts, 13 things. 13 things? No, 13 years, one thing is what I'm after. I wasn't after 13 things. That's an impossible task. There is absolutely no way that if we sat here from now until the end of time, we'll be able to think of 13 things that have improved under the Tory administration. We haven't even come up with one yet. But he says 13 things. We've regained control of our laws. Now we can get rid of those pesky human rights and finally introduce ghettos, debtor prisons and bring back the workhouse. And if you... there's not much funny in that because that is actually true. That is where we are going. You know, Mr. Blobby, Captain Calamity, said that what he wants is a high-skill, high-wage economy. What he means by that is that you aren't going to have a retirement. You are going to be on a moped delivering pizzas until you die. And you'll be doing it for just slightly under a living wage. High-skill, high-wage economy. I mean, it's just incredible what has happened in this country. And you know what the headline in I bet if I look it up right now. The headline in the Mail today, with everything that's going on, kids don't know whether they'll be able to go to school on Monday. They don't know, parents don't know whether, if they send their kids to school on Monday, whether they'll have to dig them out of the rubble at the end of the day. And they don't know that if their kid gets hurt at school, that they will be able to take them to the hospital because there's a waiting list from here until the end of space and back. And they won't be able to sue anybody about this because you can't go to court because there's also a waiting list that's 5 years long, even if you have been raped, to get your court case seen. And moreover, the courts are falling down as well. And even if somebody was in government sued who was responsible for this and they were sent for jail, they'll be able to get out so soon because the jails are falling down too and they'll be able to climb out of the hole in the roof. And with all that going on, you know what the headline in the Mail was? It was about Prince Harry.
Oh, fabulous.
For crying out loud. Hello? Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. 0345 6060 973. It still bloomin' is Prince Harry. That's the most important thing that they think that you're obsessed about. And they'll, which is why they keep going on about Prince Harry, because he is the gift that keeps on giving. Endless. They'll be able to write stories about him. Essentially, they could just make up stories about him from now until the end of time. And people will be like, oh, never mind, we can't eat, and we're freezing to death. Look at bloomin' Harry. What's he done? He killed the Queen. I think I've given up hope for the human race. We had our chance and we blew it. 0345 6060 973. Aliens from space will be spying us with all of their three eyes through their trinoculars. And they'll be thinking, well, I don't know. The planet Earth, it's a fixer-upper. Is it worth it?
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Now, wait a minute. I don't like that kind of talk. Now, just stop it. It upsets me.
Joe texts, the Tories have diligently exposed the corruption at the heart of our democratic system. They have proved that our democracy is a sham and the first-past-the-post system is not fit for purpose. They have also given us back our sovereignty. SOVRUNTY. Yeah, that's right. If you're starving to death and freezing this winter, then you could always wrap yourself in and eat sovereignty. Remember that. Brenda says, said it before, I'll say it again. Rees-Mogg, for all his Tory moralistic pontifications against the poor and the needy, I doubt he'll reach, let alone get through those pearly white gates he's so keen on.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, I think I've got more of a chance of getting in than he has. I think Jesus had a very strict policy about the rich. Clacton, hello, Ben.
Hello. Rishi Sunak always reminds me of he should be wearing short trousers when
he is. That, by the way, that's a made-to-measure suit. I just don't know who it's made to measure.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, this week in the newspapers, the Treasury finally wrote off the 4,000 million that Richie insisted on getting rid of.
Oh, great!
When his own Minister for Fraud was telling him, you've got to have due diligence for these people. Yeah. You can't just hand it out to anybody.
Is this the same week that? Is this the same week that Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, said that the police must now investigate every single crime? But she meant every single crime apart from the ones that we're committing. So yeah, they have to skip past those and just ignore them, and forget about the 40 billion that's just gone missing, and we'll concentrate on the £4 that some benefits cheat has taken off the poor, penurious taxpayer.
And the other one that stood out over the last few weeks is the fact that if you're against ULEZ, then you're for reducing the size of the lungs of children. I mean, that's basically what he said. I mean,
now breathing air is considered woke. If you want to breathe clean air, that makes you a lefty. I mean, this country has just jumped the shark.
Oh yeah, it's all politics, because they actually gave Birmingham 52 million in order to have a decent scrappage scheme,
right,
and give people a reasonable amount. And all they had to do, in the case of the Mayor of London, was to say, well, we'll give you a bit more money so you make this scrappage scheme more attractive, like 5,000 or something.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't do that. They want to get voted in, so they tried to enlist the motorists as the saviour of the Conservative Party.
And as usual, it's in this country, it's whoever shouts the loudest. I mean, the people that are whining about ULEZ are such a tiny minority of the people that live in Greater London, but what a noise they make, good grief. And, of course, amplified by the billionaire offshore media barons who, for some strange reason known only to themselves, also dislike the idea of clean air. I guess because they're not remotely interested, because on their island paradise that they live on, the air is completely clean and pure at all times.
And Conservative politicians coming on the radio every morning and saying, oh, in these outer areas, there's not... What qualifications? There's not... there's the clear air's fine, no problem. And what qualifications have these people got?
Yeah,
I mean, the scientists are all telling us the truth, and they're coming on the television and radios telling lies, basically.
I think the only good thing that has come out of all of this whining and complaining is people have taken pollution monitors down into the tube. And for the longest time, I must have said this a dozen times on the air, if I've said it once, people on the tube look like they are dying. And you only really notice it if you commute every day. You don't notice it so much unless you go on holiday and then you come back. And you come from where people are outside all the time. You go to a beach or you're at your poolside at the hotel, and everyone's out, and people look well because they've got a bit of sun, and they're not stressed out, they're relaxed, and so you're around all these people, and you don't really notice it when you're on holiday, but everybody looks well and rested and healthy. And then you come back and you get back into your routine and you go on the tube and you think, my God, all these people, they just look so ill. And the reason is they are. The air down there is poisonous.
Yes. Well, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse all the time. And the building is collapsing is the latest in a long line of disasters for this government.
The tin hat on it, which is something that you will have to buy as part of your new school uniform, a tin hat. Just in case. All right. Thanks a lot, Ben. 0345 6060 973. Max texts. The one thing that's better now after 13 years of Tory shambles is the chances of the Labour or the Liberal Democrats or the Greenies being in power at the next general election are much better. Well, not the Greenies, because it's just such a small number of people that vote to Green. But they should have far more MPs than they have. One does not cover it. Proportional representation is what we need in this country. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But unfortunately, the only party that would be able to make that happen is the one that is in power at the time. And because of our system, even if you get less than 50% of the votes, you get 100% of the power. And political parties are not in want of giving up 100% of the power. So we're stuck like this forever. And because the system is skewed in favour of the Tory party, both in the way that the crooked way in which the boundaries are set, and also that they are the only right-wing party, whereas those on the left have at least three to choose from, which it actually might make it Nadine Dorris by-election. It might be a Tory win, because the Labour Party are apparently beating the Liberal Democrats to death and vice versa, trying to win that one. And so they just split the left-leaning vote, as usual, and the Tories will step lightly over their fighting forms. And that's in a micro level. And then a macro level, as far as the country is concerned, then I would expect if we sat here and looked back in 30 years' time, then just as it has been, the Tories would have won 2/3 of the time, with less than 50% of the vote, every single time. And Keir Starmer can do something about it if he wins the next general election, but he won't, because he'll want the 100% of the power too. It's painful. It's just... What's extraordinary is that these inadequate numbskulls who have been running us pretty much forever, and they obviously are doing the wrong thing almost at every turn, and we can see them do it, and they can see us seeing them do it, and they just continue to do it anyway, and they get away with it, and then they sail off into the sunset and spend a year flipping through their Rolodex and contacting all the people that they did favours for, and they will do them favours right back again, and they will magic out of thin air 10 jobs that they don't have to show up for, each of which pays a six-figure sum. They can put their feet up and smoke a cigar for the rest of their lives, making millions of pounds for not doing anything. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Let's have, let's see now, Liverpool. Hello, Vincent.
Hello, how are you, Nick?
All right, thanks.
Hey, I'll tell you what. How did someone get out of the London Museum with 2,000 items? Hey,
yes.
I thought, thank God there was no Scousers working there, right? How did
you might be able to say that, Vincent. No, I could not possibly comment.
No, but to be honest in that, how did someone get out with 2,000 items?
I have no idea. They must have been very, very small, I suppose.
Yeah, but you should have checked the cameras, and Tutankhamun hadn't been there for years. No, but how hilarious is that, Nick? To be honest,
it's alarming, is what it is. What I guess is a function of the British Museum has. It's like an iceberg. You only see a tiny proportion of what they have. I'm sure 95% of their stuff.
I think they've got a bit less now.
Well, they do, yeah. Is in storage in basements, and we'll never see it. So that's why it wasn't missed.
Funny enough, you took the words out of my mouth. To be honest, 2,000 items. It was that bad. I had to take them back. No, to be honest, isn't hilarious that? Hey, Nick, I'm 33 on Monday.
33 years old.
I'm 33. You know, like the same.
There you go. That's to
birthday,
you
Winston.
personally.
Right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Vincent. 0345 6060 973. How many pages of these things have I got to go that I didn't get through? I'm still doing the ones from oh, God, I am. Right, I'll charge through these from last night, and then it's all new. Fresh and new. Max Tech, it only took... 1 3/4 hours to get through yesterday's tech. I am very bad at my job.
Correct.
Max texts, one thing that's better now to 30... No, read that. Julie says, we need some strong leaders to come and save the UK from the Tories, but we need to stop the boat people. We cannot afford to look after ourselves. It is important. Julie, don't start me off. We can do both. We are the 6th richest economy in the world, is important to keep in mind. At the moment, the problem is the distribution of wealth. If you were in a pub and the average earnings, or the average wealth, let's say, was, you're in a poor area of town and you added up everybody's wealth in that pub and you divide it by the number of people and you find that the average wealth is 10 grand. That's what the people have got. You know, they've got cars and, they might have a nice watch that they bought at some point, and they've got a stereo. And if they sold absolutely everything, each person in that pub's worth about 10 grand. That's the average. So that's a pretty poor pub. I mean, if you think of a pub as a country, that would be a pretty poor country. But if Bill Gates walks into that pub and you do the average thing, then suddenly the average of the people in that pub is £100 million. But it isn't. It might seem like that pub, if it represented a country, would be a rich place, but there's only one person in there that's got any money. And that's what it's like here. They go on and on and on about how well we're doing, and the economy's going gangbusters and all the rest of it. But none of that is any good to the rest of us, because it's not touching any of the rest of us. All that money sloshing about, it might as well not exist as far as we're concerned. Alfie says, and to finish that thought, we can do both, is my point. We can help and do our bit, a tiny bit that is significantly less than all of our competitor nations are putting in, helping some of the most desperate people in the world, who, by the way, are in those straits, but in large part because of us, our inglorious history and recent past, barging into countries, shooting those that didn't like it, nicking all their stuff, and then forcing them to play cricket. That's our history. And drawing lines on the map and saying, right, this is your bit and this is somebody else's part, and drawing them with a ruler. People have been living there for thousands of years, and suddenly we're in charge and screwing it all up forever. But we can do our bit and take care of ourselves. It's just that the people who are running the country have decided that that's not what they want to do. They don't want to do our bit, and they don't want to take care of the little people either. They would rather all of the money just accrued in their bank accounts and just piled up and up and up, and for no good reason, for no good purpose. It's just numbers on the screen to them. You know, people like Fishy Sunak will get a cheque for 100 grand, and what's he going to do with it? He's just going to put it in the bank, and it's going to sit there with the thousands of other 100 grands that he's got in the bank there. But if you spread that money around, then it does good. It does good. It swirls virtuously around the economy. And everybody gets slightly better off. But see, that doesn't really excite people like Rishi Sunak, everybody getting slightly better off. If you had 650 million quid, you could give every single person in this country a tenner. And they'd spend it to treat themselves to something, like a nice bar of chocolate, or they'd put it towards a shirt, or they'd go out for the day, something like that, a tenner for 650 million quid. That's what you get. You get a lot of people just a little bit happier. Or you could go the Conservative route, and you could give that 650 million quid to one person, and they'd be happy for the rest of their lives. The Tory way. And that's what we have chosen. And we put up with it, I assume, because we, in the back of our minds, think, well, one day that could be me. I might win the lottery. And the thing with life is that if you have not been born rich, it is vanishingly unlikely that you will become rich. The trick that they play is to give you false hope that might actually be a part of your future, so you don't want to rock the boat. You want that one person to get that 650 million quid because one day that might be you. This time next year, Rodney, we'll be millionaires.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Yes, sadly, this is all I have. Alfie says the greatest thing the Conservatives did, for better or worse, was to make sure that our democracy survived by making sure that the first Brexit vote was implemented at all costs. And they blocked Nicola Sturgeon from trying to break up the union for a second time. Do you agree, my friend? Says Alfie. No, Alfie, and I'm not your friend. It wasn't making sure that the first Brexit vote was implemented at all costs was not democracy, because it was won by lies and the interference of enemies of the people, foreign actors, dark money, and all of the rest of it. Russian influence. It was the opposite of democracy. It was stolen from us. And as for Nicola Sturgeon trying to break up the union, well, you know, if the Scottish people want to go, then I can completely understand. And if they leave and join the European Union, then that would give me a get-out-of-jail-free card, because I'm half Scottish. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi. Good evening, Nick. Good evening. I'm touching on something that's really very disturbing. Besides all this school business, but you
could you put that another way?
No, but you touched on this thing in this evening, you know, with your callers and what you're saying about. I
haven't been touching anything at all.
No,
weren't me.
On how the man in the street or everyone's suffering from this cost of living crisis, except those who've got, you know, maybe $1 million they can put into a fixed bank account and interest, you know. but what's really disturbing is the figures the thing that came out, how it looks like you don't know whether it's propaganda or something, or we've got no way of verifying what's really true here, because it's all above. Well, no, you know, unless you're.
What are you talking about? True where?
The figure about the revisions to the Office of National Statistics, showing that Britain actually has bounced back. Because it hasn't.
Jan, it hasn't bounced back. There is no such thing as bouncing back. Look around. We've got tens of millions of people that are living in poverty.
That's what I mean.
We've got children who are going to bed starving to death, and we've got schools that are falling down. We've got hospitals that are being propped up in the corridors.
Exactly.
We've got people that are queuing out in the car park trying to get into hospitals. There is nothing that is going well in this country. Never mind about some spurious number that some economists may or may not fashion out of thin air.
The Office of National Statistics.
I don't care.
No, but they're saying that they made a mistake earlier.
I don't care, Jan.
Bigger.
Not for anybody in this country, it isn't. Point to the people that are doing well.
They're using it to mangle up whatever the Labour's saying, or the opposition party.
Right. Well, we have to stop thinking about GDP, and we have to stop thinking about the growth figures, because it is not helping anybody but those at the very, very, very top.
Yeah, but
we have to think more about the distribution of wealth.
But it's being used in as a political football.
Yeah, no kidding.
To get the Tories back in.
Right.
That's what I feel, and that's what I find really worrying, because it's like discrediting everything that Labour's trying to say about, or what, you know, saying that Brexit hasn't worked.
Well, it hasn't.
They can, yeah, we know it hasn't, but it's like I don't know. It's like a, what do you call it? Will o' the wisp, or they're just playing on gaslighting. They're gaslighting.
Correct. Yes.
They're gaslighting.
It's all they
but
have.
It can have such an effect. Look what's happening in America with Trump. He may get in.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Do they?
Yeah.
People don't want truth, Nick, do they?
They don't want
necessarily.
They don't want what?
They don't want truth.
Truth.
They actually want a better life, but they don't necessarily care whether what's being spouted.
I'm not sure that that's true. I think that people don't necessarily want a better life. They just want the other side to have a worse life. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. They would prefer, I think there's a significant number of people, particularly on the right, who would actually prefer to have a situation where the other side is doing worse rather than they themselves are doing better. I think they would prefer that.
Well, it's yeah, but I mean, democracy needs to be fed on facts. I mean, we have to know that facts.
And unfortunately, artificial intelligence has just ruined that completely. Artificial intelligence is going to turn everything that we know completely on its head, and it's going to be the trial run has happened already. And that was with Brexit, and it was with the last Trump vote when he was president. But that was at the very, very foothills of artificial intelligence. That they were just playing with what are, by comparison to what they have now, children's toys. The next general election in this country and the one in America are going to be elections like you've never seen in your life. People are going to be bombarded. I mean, never mind about people feeling tired of it all now. Just wait. Your social media is going to be lit up on fire. There's going to be so much misinformation coming your way, and people won't be able to tell the difference between the truth and the lies. And I think that they will prefer the lies. They actually, that's the scary thing, is people will prefer to be lied to, and they will not mind if their own circumstance is impoverished, just as long as it gets the liberals. Just as long as you can stick it to the left, then I'm sure that those on the right will feel better about themselves. That's incredible that that's where we are, but I believe that it's certainly true in America, and what happens in America usually happens here about 6 months later. So we're in for buckle up, everybody. We're in for a bumpy ride. Thanks, Jan. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello.
Is he crazy, or is that just the way he acts?
Just the way he acts. 0345 6060 973. And now, in the last hour, I did want to get through all of the texts from yesterday, but there is just 4 left. So I'll do it in the beginning part of this hour, and I'll pretend that I did it in the last hour. Peter says, the one thing the Tories have achieved is to get enough working class people to turn on each other and vote against their own interests. Well, that's true. Yes. I mean, if you're a millionaire, then I can understand why you'd vote Conservative, because it's most likely, in the grand scheme of things, that they will figure out a way to let you keep as much of your money as possible. But if you're working class or you're just about getting by, then I don't really get it. Lee says, Tory accomplishment, educating the nation on how to make a meal for 30p. Rick texts, when Grant Shapps lost his previous 4 ministerial jobs, did he get severance pay each time? Yeah, what's weird is that the name on the cheque was different each time. Jim says, I took a brief break from your show because I knew the answer already. Nothing. the question being, what have the Tories ever done for us in the last 13 years? What's better? That's the question. He says, I was curious to see what was going on this evening without the Premier League football transfers, brackets, I know you hate football. I don't hate football. It's the opposite of that. It's the only sport that I'm actually glad to watch on TV, unless it's the Olympics, and then I'll watch absolutely anything. He says, without getting political, let's assume that everything is a complete disaster and we are all doomed. We are, in fact, all doomed, as pointed out by Jim. Right. So, those are the texts and tweets from yesterday, and not one single solitary thing. I thought that buried in among them might be the answer that I was looking for yesterday. And I was extremely fair. I took every single call that was on the board, apart from at the end of the show when I couldn't go through them fast enough. But I didn't pick and choose. The question was, what have the Tories done in the last 13 years that has made this country better than it was before? Just one single solitary thing. That was all I was looking for. And it wasn't a trick question. And I took every suggestion that came in, and we couldn't think of a single blooming thing between us. Between all of the calls and the texts and the tweets and all of that. Not one single thing in 13 years. You'd think you'd be able to come up with one. The only thing that somebody said, as I suggested at the beginning of the show, was gay marriage. Now, there's a lot of people who would think that that is a very bad thing. And there's absolutely no... It's almost as though it was done by accident, that the Tory party just sort of tripped and fell and wrote that law on the way down. Because there's no way they'd do that now. I mean, can you imagine Suella Braverman? I mean, it would be the war on woke. They'd have to open up a new wing on it. So we couldn't think of a thing. And I just went through all of those texts that I couldn't get through. 14 pages of them that I couldn't get through last night. And there was nothing in there either. That's kind of dispiriting, don't you think? It can't be another country that's had a... oh, dear. That's had a party in charge for so long whose citizens can't think of anything that they've improved in all that while. A hot lemon and a honey drink. That'll do the trick. Plymouth, hello, Julie.
Hello, I'm glad you're still on the hot lemon and honey. You do sound coldified.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, I hope you feel better soon, Nick.
Thanks,
well,
Julie.
I couldn't quite get a 1, but I think I've got a half plus a quarter.
Okay.
Would you like me quarter first?
Yeah, okay. Your choice. Dealer's choice.
Well, after 13 years of a Conservative government, I now own a blood pressure monitor, and I can take my own blood pressure.
Oh, and what's your blood pressure at the moment?
It's a little bit on the low side.
On the low side?
Yes, I know. I tend to go low rather than high.
Right.
But I'm saving up for my digital thermometer and my oxygen monitor as well.
Well, now this has taken us back in time to the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Were you concerned about that coming back again?
Well, no. I mean, I was at the time, and my brother passed during that time, and my niece's fiance passed, and at heart attacks and things. But no, my partner had last year a triple heart bypass. God. So we got them on the blood pressure monitor because it is still very difficult to get appointments.
Terrible.
So I'm thinking if I could master taking blood tests, then I could actually go and probably work for the NHS. I just need to...
Julie, if you don't know anything about medicine, you could run the NHS.
Well, I tell you, I would. I've got a good heart, so I will try my best to look after people.
So what's your blood pressure then? Because the doctor is in. My pen is poised above my paper.
Okay, I took it 3 times yesterday, and I usually am the 120 to 80, but I was
120 over 80. Okay.
But I was 117 over 65 or 75, and then 110 over 77.
Right.
And the third one, I think was my best one, was 118 over 120, I think. Yeah, so I thought, oh, no, I'm fine. But
you seem to be all over the place. That last one, 118 over 120. Is that?
Oh, no, is
well?
that too much? No, sorry, 88. Oh, sorry, 78 over 120, the last one. I thought, oh, that's like nearly 80 over.
Well, let me ask you this, Julie. If you get up really quickly, do you get a bit woozy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, a little bit dizzy.
Yowza. But, Nick, can I just say, this is leading on to my 50%, my 50% towards my one good thing that I am of a certain age, so I'm sort of, going through stuff, but I am relieved now that I know that as a woman, if I want to be a man, that I can do that. I can be. So I don't want to say the words and things like that because I'm at that age where I'm going through stuff and I think, I could be a man if I want.
Julie, if you want, you can get a kiss on the lips from the head of the Spanish women's football team. I can organise that straight away.
Before you get rid of me, I just want to say I did hear today on LBC, like what you were saying about. Already, working class people are coming out and blaming Labour over the schools and the hospitals and the concrete problem. And you just think, I'd like to set a new challenge. Like, please, for these working class Conservative voters that are living such a great life with all our services in such a mess, well, they ring up and tell us how they can say these things, how they're managing to get hospital appointments.
I think it's, I can sum it up in one word, Julie. It's called gullibility. They read newspapers which are pushing a line that has been written by billionaire offshore media barons. And if you keep telling keep telling people that up is down and black is white over and over and over again, then there's a certain number of gullible people that will believe you. So that's the problem here, is the gullibility of the human race.
It's so sad, Nick. And please do never stop doing your best, my lovely. We need it.
I'll keep on keeping on, like keep on keeping on. Who sang that? Keep on keeping on by Journey, maybe.
Journey, I think, yes.
Maybe it was REO Speedwagon.
Oh,
I think it was REO Speedwagon. Keep on loving you, maybe. I'm mixing up two songs at the same time. Gonna keep on loving you,
Nick.
Julie.
Yes, what a lovely way to end our conversation. Bit of REO Speedwagon.
Lovely.
Take good care.
And you. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. I don't know, those numbers seem to be pretty right on the nose. 120 over 80. I think 120 over 80 is ideal. You're in an ideal situation there, Julie. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, unless they're a medical professional, in which case, ignore everything that I've just said. Laurie says, by the way, this is the first... I can't believe it. I am extremely bad at this job.
Affirmative.
It's almost a quarter of the way into the first hour, and only now am I reading texts and emails from tonight. Isn't that awful? I should be ashamed of myself. Laurie says, last night you were talking about us selling off our most precious water. Here in Ireland, the government see the water as a basic necessity and a resource for all of its people. So therefore it is free to everyone. No bills, no meters, just amazing. You're kidding. Really? Is that true? Neil says, is the UK still sending overseas aid to nuclear-armed moon missions, sun spaceships, India? Yeah, and some of that money is actually not going to Infosys. Can you believe that?
No.
What is India doing on the dark side of the moon? I mean, why? What for? There's nothing there. And they're sending off a spaceship to take a peek at the sun. Why? What are you going to do with that information? I mean, you can't go there to the sun, can you? Even if you spot somewhere that's relatively cool, you can't land there. You can't even get anywhere near it. What are they doing it for? For what purpose are they investigating the sun? And can't people who have been doing these kind of things before just share the information, and they spend the billions of pounds that they'll be otherwise just chucking away into space on something better down here on Earth? The whole human race has completely lost its mind. 0345 6060 973. Ollie texts, "You are not patriotic about this country. All you ever do is talk ill of Sir Mog and the Tories, but you never talk about how bad Labour are." You never talk about how the Tories are trying to save this great country from woke nightmare Labour. It's really sad, says Ollie. Well, you got one thing right, Ollie. It is really sad.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Shut up.
Johnny texts, "The Tories have successfully brainwashed the unthinking into self-harm. I literally spent part of my day today talking on The Tories have successfully brainwashed the unthinking into self-harm. I literally spend part of my today taking on ex-pit miners from Bolsover who believe 20 people on a Lilo are the root cause of their life's problems and still plan on voting for the party of Rees-Mogg." It's utterly incredible and utterly depressing, says Johnny. Well, you're wasting your breath, Johnny. I mean, some people you just can't reach. What we got here is a failure to communicate.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Oldbury. Hey up, Ranjit.
Hiya, Nick. You okay, mate?
Yeah, great.
I'm in Stitches listening to the show today. Right. You know India space rocket?
Yes.
Okay, I can answer some of those questions
Please.
for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Why is the first question.
Okay. First, I'll get to that. Right. You know when you said the British went and drew lines on maps, yeah?
Yes.
And divided the countries, yeah? Right, obviously, you know, having a name like Ranjit, I am, you know, of Indian heritage. Right, you know when Rishi Sunak was Chancellor and Sajid Javid was the Home Secretary, yeah? There was a private war between India and Pakistan in this country as well going on, that they was going to provide the first Asian Prime Minister. So he carried on from there, and obviously India won it, yeah? So that's
a private war. I'm not quite sure that's how it was.
No, it was... Excuse me, let me just have a...
Hey, you've got the same thing as me.
Yeah, but I'm just gulped some beer. I'm all right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's what you need. Okay. So, you know, between the Indian community and the Pakistani community, there's a bit of a friendly rivalry to see who's going to win.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And then the space race, okay? Now, in Pakistan, the civilians are going mad at the government and saying, you've been at war with India for so long, and this, that, and the other, arguing. They've already got to the moon before us, so it's the British are still causing problems everywhere, right? So that's the kind of thing. But India, you know, we're giving them this overseas aid.
Yes.
Right? People are jumping up and down about that. It's £800 million over 3 years. It's to bring in lucrative deals. Now, Tata is going to have 500 million or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, from the government now.
One of the world's richest humans, we are giving 500 million quid for, begging him to continue doing business in this country. I mean, that's just so desperate.
So why are people, you know, why are the rednecks, right, jumping up and down about overseas aid and talking about space race, right? There's, like people have been saying, we don't own anything in this country now.
No.
Right?
We don't.
No. Okay, and the other thing that, you know, you've...
I mean, when you've sold your water, that has to be surely the last thing that you can think of to sell, because this is the only country in the world that has sold off all of its water. No other country on earth has thought about that and thought it was a good idea. It's only here. And so you'd have to assume that they have gone through everything else to sell off before they actually got the nerve to try out on us poor dopes who pay taxes the idea of selling off our blooming water.
So at the moment now, India is controlling this country. Yeah, you can bet your last on all the investments that are coming in. Yeah, okay, of the national, probably going to take over the National Health Service, some rich billionaire from India, right? Then you got that BRICS, right? You know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, all those people. Now, I said about probably 30 years ago there was going to be three big economies. The first one was going to be America, then it was going to be the Far East and Europe. Well, Europe is breaking down.
How do you mean, breaking down?
Well, Europe is split, isn't it? A little bit.
It's split?
Yeah.
In what way?
You know,
well, America is split. You didn't mention that.
No, but everybody's split now, right? And I think the Russians are taking good advantage of it by splitting everybody.
Well,
right?
if the Russians were actually behind the vote to leave the European Union, then it could not possibly be going any better for them.
That's what I mean. And if Trump gets in, right,
they're all
he's
better off.
Putin's mate. Yeah, they're all better off. And then we are doomed. But
no, I refuse to believe that. It is depressing, but you cannot let it depress you, because there is a better way. And the reason that you know that is because there used to be a better way.
Yeah, you know, your glamorous assistant, he remembers me saying this a few weeks ago, right? And I don't know if you do. I said, you know, in the closed season when everybody's off, you know, on the holidays in Parliament when it's closed, there's going to be a lot of corridor talk, right, to remove Rishi Sunak.
Well, there is, yeah.
There is, and I was right, yeah. And I reckon that in October, between October and November, he's going to call a snap election, and I think he'll probably go for December.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure about that. I think he might get chucked out in his ear before that happens.
Yeah, but what comes first? Can he be chucked out, or can he call it an election?
They can
cut and run?
They can install yet another one, and we can't say anything about it. And I would be, I would be remotely surprised if the catastrophic clown show came back for a finale.
Yeah. Wait.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Blobby was the fairy on top of our Christmas trees.
Yeah, and then don't forget, she did say, I will resign immediately, but the timeline, right, is there now. In 6 weeks' time, they're going to call a by-election, and if Boris Johnson is nominated and he wins, then my cunning plan, right, or my cunning prediction, it's going to come true.
Right.
And don't forget...
Well, I'll know who to blame if it does.
Yeah. In December, the students are all back at home, so they're not going to vote or whatever.
No, they won't.
It's all in their bigger plan.
So you haven't answered the why question. Why are India going to the moon and investigating the sun, for crying out loud?
What for? Just to get one over everybody else and say, listen, we are now the top dog. Don't forget, India was 14th for Richie's economy. Now they're the 5th. Yeah, right. Because what it was, you know, Prime Minister Manmohan
Sixth, maybe.
Singh.
I think maybe the 6th.
No, I think they're 5th. I think that they really have, because Manmohan Singh, who was head of the International Monetary Fund, he was forced to become a prime minister, and he built their economy over the last 20 years, and Modi's taking good advantage of it.
Right,
now he's coming over here.
I don't know anything about that. You're talking about something that I'm neither knowledgeable about nor really interested in.
No, but they're going to buy this country out. That's what I'm worried about.
They're going to have to hurry up, because Qatar have bought most of our tall buildings and put a firm down payment on all of the rest of it. They probably own you, Ranjit.
They do own me, mate. Listen, what it is, listen to what I'm saying here. And another thing, there's two little things that the Tories have done good, right? One is they've shut up that Nigel Farage, because he's trying to get
I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that's true. He might not be on our TVs every day, but they have moved in his direction. He might as well be controlling them like puppet on a string.
Yeah, and the price of this country has dropped so cheap now, right?
Yeah, that is true.
There's probably more than a few countries like Qatar, India, Saudis, I don't know, maybe Russia's already bought us out, haven't they?
The banking racket in the City of London is throwing money at hedge funds because they have seen a giant for sale sign on practically everything that is not already been borne by the Qataris in this country. Everything is going cheap. And all you've got to do is have a little bit of money behind you, and you can buy what is a perfectly reasonable and well-run company, and then you can do their hedge fund thing, which is to load it with debt, borrow against the assets, and give all of the money that you've borrowed to yourself for excellence in being you. And then the company will just limp on and probably collapse. But what do you care? You just made £100 million. Here, Ranjit, I just got to go. Because I got to go. When you got to go, you got to go. That's just a fact. 0345 6060 973. John says, so the Tories have helped create the energy crisis, the climate crisis, the food crisis, the housing crisis, the NHS crisis, and so much more. Labour will never get us out of these enormous problems, so the Tories have killed this country. They should be charged for treason. Well, at least some of them should be. And as for Labour not being able to get us out of these enormous problems, well, they did. These problems did not exist under the previous Labour administration. They didn't. The Tories took over the world's best-rated health service. It seems hard to even contemplate that now. Now that we have a health service that is not just not a health service, not even an emergency service anymore. You cannot get ill in this country. Don't do it. It's terrifying. It's not there for you anymore. It doesn't exist. But it could. It could again. All it needs is somebody who is not just interested in strip mining everything for short-term monetary gain. I mean, it seems simple, but it seems so hard to do. You just got to get somebody else in charge. That's all. Yusuf texts, somebody else in charge who is interested in running the country for the benefit of the people. I mean, I know this sounds like a revolutionary concept. Run the country for the benefit of the people rather than running the country for the benefit of the people that are running the country.
I am totally 100% on it.
He isn't. Yusuf says, I was listening to one of your old Abbot podcasts today from 2021. In it, you asked, where do foxes go during the day? Well, I can tell you that one of them likes to sleep on next door's shed roof. I'll send you a photo next time I see him/her. No, that's okay. I've seen foxes. I can't drive home without seeing at least a dozen. That's an exaggeration. At least 6. That's not an exaggeration. Dart out in front of my car. And they seem to get more and more and more. But what do they do during the day? I mean, sometimes they just got so bold that the daytime is the same as the nighttime to them. They're just like wandering around the place as though they own it. Looking at me thinking, what are you doing here? Get out my garden. Cheek. Simon says, I think it's interesting that virtually everyone is saying that nothing has got better over the last 13 years. Those on the left blame the Tories. Those on the right blame too much immigration. So I can't wait to see what happens when Labour win the next general election. If things improve, then great. However, if things don't drastically improve, then the left can't blame the Tories anymore, and too much immigration will be the only answer left. That will cause civil unrest. Well, if you expect an economy and a country is like an ocean liner, you can't turn it around in a short period of time. It takes forever to stop and then to change direction. And Labour will be very, very unlikely to actually change anything significant in their first go-around. So they're going to have to win twice, at least, to improve people's lives any. But they won't have a single solitary second before they're attacked by the right-wing press for everything that the Conservatives have done to this country over the past 14 years. They will blame Labour the moment they get into number 10 for everything. And there's just enough, here's that word again, gullible people who will swallow every single solitary syllable and not be able to wait for the next general election so they can vote the Conservatives back in. Because if at first you don't succeed, keep doing the same thing over and over again. That'll work.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we're doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Yeah.
And we taped on Thursday and I edited it today to take out all of the swearing.
Disgusting.
And that comes out on Monday. It is funny. I mean, if you've got an hour and you want to be amused, then it will be right up your alley. The podcast is called What's Your Problem? With Nick and Carol, in which the kooky Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while guffawing like seals. Now, if you've got a problem and you want us to solve it, then you must send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, nickandcarol@global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
No, seriously. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
Stu's texts. One thing the Tory cabinet have done for me personally is made me feel talented. And Gordon says, under the Tories, our beaches and waterways have been organically fertilised. I now only swim with my mouth closed. Well, that is true. Whether you ask for it or not, you get free sewage in your river. Belfast. Hello, Brendan.
Oh.
Brendan.
Sorry.
Brendan.
Been waiting for a wee minute or two just to get talking to you. Thank you very much, anyway, for letting me talk to you.
Brendan.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. First things first. Obviously, you're not feeling too well. And although you would never complain about such a thing.
Well,
you know,
I don't. I hold it all in.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Yes.
I know, but having listened to you for many years, I can sort of read between the lines and see the underlying strength within yourself.
That's right, yes.
Continually keeping up this broadcast. But anyway, I would like to say that, okay, I hope you're feeling much better.
Thanks.
But unfortunately, I can't.
Huh?
You know, no, because just do your job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I thought, well, you know, best tell people like him the truth, because he's always telling us the truth. So it's best to tell him. Anyway, what I rang about was, I hope you don't mind that, but I'm trying to, I'm the preamble man, you know, the upright evolution of the Neolithic man. I'm preamble man. I can't help it. I just keep going backwards and forwards. And I thought, he's not well. I'll get in there and let him sit back and let his shoulder strap. Let him get a wee sip of his water. And blah, blah, blah. That's the preamble.
Okay.
But what I really... Right, okay. So what I really rang up about was
can't wait
the
to
Tories.
hear this. The Tories.
The Tories, yes. What was your big subject initially this evening? Something about what have they ever did that was good? That's right.
No, that was yesterday, but it sort of bled into today for no good reason. I mean, we've talked about all sorts of things. Talked about schools falling down and how unpopular Rishi Sunak is, and they might replace him with the Mr. Blobby at any moment.
Yeah. Wait.
The government might get Act 2 of that mess.
I know, but here, you've just able to rain that off the top of your head there. Nobody licks in the wall. Nobody licks in the wall. So let me get back to what I rang up about.
Right. Still can't wait to hear it. Go on.
Yes. Well, it's in response to your topic, and it was about why the poor people, but you didn't say this, but I took an inference that you were trying to get to the bottom of why hopeless, that's despair, that's not nice. Why do people who say lack the full benefits of education vote for very rich people when they're actually, you know, it's like turkeys voting for Christmas?
It appears to me that the interest of billionaires, who are those that fund the Conservative Party, and the interests of everybody else that lives in this country do not intersect. Well, what's bizarre is that people who are poor continue to vote for a party that all the evidence suggests is not acting in your interests.
Well, it is. Well, now, this is my own way. I've been thinking about this for about 48 hours, maybe 72 hours probably. And I was thinking, and this was in response. Things have changed. It's not so much. Everybody in older days, when the electric door were open, but you had nothing to steal, so there were no burglars. No, there was nothing. They have to break in and decorate.
Yeah.
But in this situation, people used to always waste to win a golden ticket. You know, to go to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah.
And people always wanted, or they would dream of maybe buying a Daimler, or maybe buying a custom-built Rolls Royce.
That's right.
That was the aspirations of a certain generation.
And they'd live their entire lives and none of that would come true, but they'd still got their fingers crossed, and that's why they continue to vote for those that are passing laws in the favour of the super rich, is because they imagine at one time in the future they might be one of those people. But unless you are super rich, it's almost impossible for you to become one of those people.
But my point, right, yes, I totally agree. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be ringing you. Obviously, I agree with you to some extent. But then if you were wrong, which you are tonight, the thing that I'm saying is, yes, those were the aspirations. The aspirations of wealth from the extreme poor were always to have a badge of honour that you could show how you were no longer poor, that you had wealth. And you would do that by buying a Rolls Royce or having a swimming pool built in your backyard, or, but those, even though they were positive things of wealth, if somebody achieved wealth through whatever means they used, they were aspirations that were positive. The problem since the last 13 years is that positivity has been changed into you gotta crush. You don't want to aspire. You want to crush everybody.
The other side.
Below you.
Yes.
And everybody on your level. Because this is war. Money is war. Who cares if you've got a BMW or you aspire to a Bentley or you reach the glorious heights of a Rolls Royce? It doesn't matter. What you need is to be superior to the two dudes that live up the street. That's what money and wealth is. It's not about benefits.
Well, I think that,
power.
and that might actually answer the question, why do people who already have, like Fishy Sunak, why do people who already have £1 billion to their name, why are they so desperate, scrabbling about, trying to get more? And I think that it just becomes... I actually asked... I have said this before, but I got so drunk at a do for a radio station that I used to work at that I actually asked Richard Branson this question. I sort of collared him, and because he would flit around the room and introduce himself to a table, and then he'd spend 10 seconds there, go introduce himself to another table, and for some reason he came down and sat next to me, and we were talking for ages, and unbeknownst to me, the rest of the room was kind of like nudging each other, going, "Why is Richard Branson talking to Nick Abbot for such a long time?" And it's probably because I was drunk and I was making a fool of myself. But one of the questions that I asked him was, why are you doing this? I mean, how much money do you need? Unfortunately, I don't know what the answer was. I can't recall. I can remember asking him, but I can't remember what he said. But I suspect that it's just counting, score. It's scoring from your people of your ilk, and that's the reason that they do it. It might be something of a mental illness with some of them, perhaps. I mean, how can you continue to try to get every single solitary penny you can from those that can't afford to lose it, when you couldn't spend all of the money you've already got if you sat up all night long for the rest of your life with a credit card, bashing it down on the counter at Harrods? Why? What for? I mean, how desperately needy are you? And for a lot of them, then the answer to that is massively. unendingly needy. And I suspect that informs the actions of some of the people that have been running this country for the past 13 years. There is no such thing as enough. Enough doesn't exist with these people. It's painful, but that's where we are. Anyway, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Sue says, following on from last night's show when you were struggling to find a single thing the Tories had achieved over the last 13 years, I drew a blank on that too, but here's one thing I thought of, which is more of a consolation for, rather than achievement of, the Tories' miserable stint in office, and that is the entertainment value they have added to your show, especially those featured on your soundboard. So take a bow, Bodger.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And you, Fishy.
I am totally 100% on it.
Then there's Liz.
Absolutely.
The numbers guy.
And 1, 2, 6 million.
No. And then there's Dominic Raab.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory. I don't support the Human Rights Act, and I don't believe in economic and social rights. My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Yeah, I believed you the first time. And then, of course, there's Sir Gavin Williamson.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
And the one and only Smug.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Yeah, plus any that I might have missed. Then I suddenly realised what a pity this lot didn't go into comedy instead of politics, says Sue, and our country might not be currently falling apart at the seams. Well, yeah. Edward says, another good thing the Tories did was introduce you, Les. We mustn't let Sadiq Khan take the credit for the extension. And Clive says, the only reason the Tories might win the next election is Stockholm Syndrome, which we have discussed at length on this show already. Yeah, correct.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Paul texts, Sunak's best speech so far was to tell mortgage holders to hold their nerve when faced with huge increases in repayments. Yeah, talking about nerve. What is he like? And he bounces up and down and he sort of fixes you with those hurt little puppy dog eyes and look at his face. Oh, isn't he an absolute dream? Steve says, is the UK funding India's space programme with the foreign aid that we send them each year? Why do they still need aid if they're spending on space travel? How's that right? You got me, Steve. I have no idea. And Johnny says, according to David Maddox, several members within his party have submitted no confidence votes in the PM as appeals for fresh leadership ring out. They don't want fresh leadership. They want stale leadership. They want this bloke back.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
They want the stink of his mouldy jacket hanging over the back of the chair at number 10 Downing Street. There's nothing fresh about it. Camden, hello, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Yes, Claire.
I have a complaint, a huge complaint to make.
Right.
And I don't even know who against.
Oh.
Because you gave me the position of Minister of Defense about 2 months ago.
Did I?
On the basis that I told you that I know nothing about nuclear power production.
Yes.
And they seem to have found somebody who knows even less.
Even less than
me.
you. Yeah, incredible. It took them a while, but they managed to find a way to give the job to somebody even worse than the previous incumbent. Yeah.
And I'm already watering the flowers in front of this nuclear power plant and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between me and him is that I told the whole nation, I told the truth.
Yes.
That I know nothing.
Oh, well, that was your big mistake. Huge.
And he will be taking the money for this.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, as a consolation prize, do you have a heart and do you care about people? If you can answer no to both of those questions, then you too can be Home Secretary. Think about it, Claire. Are you all twisted inside with hatred for the human race? Well, you can be the next Home Secretary of this country.
No, I couldn't.
You couldn't stoop that low, I understand.
But in any case, you have to fight for my role.
Right.
And if you win for the Minister of Defense, if you win, we'll split my salary.
50-50. Well, that sounds like an excellent idea. I'll fight for your role, and you fight for your right to party. It's a deal. Thanks a lot, Claire. 0345 6060 973. She's very upset. Disappointed. Stanwell. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Good stuff. Good to talk to you. I'm hoping I get the privilege to talk to you as long as the other callers did.
Is that a complaint?
No.
Yeah, it sounds like a complaint.
I've spoke to you in the past, and I get cut off quite quickly. Although nothing I say is over.
In your opinion,
for sure. Look. We know the Conservative government always wanted to get rid of the NHS.
By the way, my glamorous assistant next door is just written up on my screen. Cut him off now and move on.
For sure. No, I can completely understand.
Right, so you're on thin ice. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Conservative government, we know, are not the government for the poor people that are, struggling through and whatever else. And Starmer has reneged on all of his promises, on the things that he's going to do to help the poor people. I just wonder why it is that you still somehow, you hold a soft spot for Keir Starmer.
I don't. That is completely untrue. I do not hold a soft spot for Keir Starmer. I'd be surprised to learn if anybody does. What I do hope for is, and I live in expectation of, if a Labour government does win the next general election, then this country would be different by small increments, and even small increments. If two lines are parallel, then they will remain equidistant forever. But if you just differentiate them their route by 1 degree, well, at first it might not seem like that much, but give it a year, and those two lines will be far apart. That's the plan, I think.
Okay. So what I'm saying, Nick, if Jeremy Corbyn was in Keir Starmer's position, do you think he would have reneged on all of the promises that he had made?
No.
No. Okay, that's all I wanted. Nick, I have no more to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. He knew when time was up and he left. Perfect call. 0345 6060 973. I have no idea what that call was about. He seemed to be gathering information for a case that he's going to bring against me later. Perhaps I've said the wrong thing. I'm kind of mystified. He had a couple of questions in mind. He just needed the answers, and that was that. He's going to go and write it up and present his findings to a police person near him soon. Croydon. Callie.
Hi.
Yes, Callie.
Hello. Hi. So it's just in answer to your question from last night's show.
Oh, okay.
So one thing the Tories have done is they've increased the ISA and JISA limits year on year.
I'm sorry, I missed everything that you just said. They've done what now?
They've increased the ISA and JISA allowances.
The ISA and JISA allowances? From what to what?
So back in 2013, I think it was just short of £12,000, increasing to £15,000. The ISA limit now is 20.
Right. Is that it? So for those people who've got an extra 20 grand lying about, then it's been great.
Yeah.
Which is virtually nobody at all.
Well, we'll agree to disagree.
Right. Well, okay. Okay. So we found one. I'm not sure that really counts. So they've increased the ISA allowances. In line with inflation? Probably, yes. I mean, 20 grand now is, I don't know what, when 12 grand was. It's not really even worth talking about. So what? But, OK, 20 grand. Whoop-de-doo. You'll be able to be comforted by that if you can't afford to heat or eat this winter. That if you had 20 grand lying about the place, then you'll be able to stick it in an ISA. What great news. Kieran says, as a career criminal, I am grateful that the police don't turn up to my place of work anymore. Life's hard enough. People barely have anything worth taking these days. See, there's a positive. There's never been a better time to be a criminal in this country. There can't be. And we got the prospect, the ludicrous sight of that twisted sister, Cruella Braverman, who's saying that now, on her insistence, the police are expected to investigate every single theft. Yeah, apart from the thefts of about, 40 or 50 billion pounds of public money that has gone AWOL under this administration. That theft, the police are specifically directed to ignore. No, never mind about the 50 billion that's gone missing. We want to investigate the £5 worth of chocolate that somebody nicked from Boots the other day. Yeah, that's what we'll concentrate on. Send those people to the heart of the sun. 0345 6060 973. Oh, blimey, we're running out of time. What to do? Take a call, read some texts. Take a call, read some texts. Martin says, you lefty wokey-cokey types don't like a bit of pollution and sewage because you're weak. Sewage and pollution puts hairs on your chest in the style in the style of Michael Fabricant's hairdo. Oh, my God. Can you imagine waking up and you've got that in your chest? A bit of sewage and pollution never hurt anybody. Stop being so wokey-cokey.
Okie-dokie.
Right, and finally, who should it be? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a lip and right. Bath. Hello, John.
Hello.
John.
I tell you what, just quickly before I say what I'm going to say, I know we're against time here. First of all, are you sure your cough is not the new strain of COVID?
How would I know that?
Because my son has it, and so does my mother, this cough that doesn't go away.
Right.
And it's, 15.2 or some kind of a horrible sequel to a film or something.
15 what's 15.2?
That's the new strain that's come from Canada.
Oh, Canadian disease. Right.
Yes, I don't know. But it involves a lot of coughing, that's all.
Yeah. And it makes you say A at the end of a sentence.
And a boot.
A boot, yeah.
No, I was going to say, just before I get off here, because I know
you got 20 seconds.
Did you see Richie Sunak go to a little school and he drew a picture around lots of children? He drew a picture and he painted something. And it was the sort of thing you could imagine Ronnie Cray painting in Broadmoor.
Really? What was it?
No, it was just awful. It was supposed to be a face and a smiley face, whatever it was. I can see why he doesn't want to fund arts, because he's rubbish at it.
Yeah. Well, all he does is money, honey. I'm surprised he didn't paint a picture of money. John, gotta go. Thanks for the bad news.
Looking smart for a new school year. If you want some quality, George has got the gear. Uniforms that are tough, George is just what you need. With reinforced knees, Gonna hit those gates and play as much as I please. Quality schoolwear that stands the test of school time from £3, only at Georgia Asda. In a poll of 40 NetMoms members, 98% would recommend Georgia Asda schoolwear to a friend. Selected Asda stores, subject to availability. Delivery charges may apply. 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 Delivery charges may